Hello everyone, today I'm back in World of Guns, Gun Disassembly, and today we're looking at a very iconic World War II rifle. It is obviously the M1 Garand, the American infantry rifle of World War II. So basically, let's just jump into the field strip and I'm gonna tell you some stuff about this gun. Now, if you are American, you probably know quite a lot about it, probably more than me actually. I've just always thought that it was quite a cool gun, but it has also some incredible history behind it as well. So basically, if you don't know, the Americans and the Soviets were the only two nations going into, or I should say countries, going into World War II with actual self-loading rifles adopted on mass scale in their infantry. So only the Americans and the Soviets were capable of doing that before World War II. And then obviously during the war, the Germans also got there pretty quickly, actually, 41. And then 43, obviously, when they had the Sturmgewehr, they got into the self-loading rifle, and basically at the towards the end of the war, even beat these two nations with their innovations with infantry rifles in regards to like the Sturmgewehr being the first assault rifle, so basically a very advanced thing. But today we're not gonna be talking about that thing. But today we're gonna be talking about this old Workhorse, as it is often called. A lot of these guns were produced for the infantry of the United States. It was their main combat rifle. Now obviously they had some other small arms for their army. They had obviously later M1 carbines, they had Thompson submachine guns, and then grease guns, submachine guns. They had also some bolt guns for like rear echelon troops and stuff like that. So a whole bunch of stuff, but the main sort of infantry soldiers would be issued one of these. Now later in the war, some other firearms would be just as common as this thing, but especially at the beginning of the war, this was the primary rifle. And what is the most sort of interesting thing about it is that it was actually adopted way before World War II. It was actually adopted in the 30s, if you believe it or not. So when it was adopted, this thing was incredibly ahead of its time, the most advanced combat rifle in the world, period. And it was a great sort of asset in the hands of the American troops. So anyway, let's take this thing apart and let's show you what's inside it, and somewhat how it works, and we're gonna maybe talk about more of the historical facts as well. So we first take out the trigger group here, and it has this pivoting trigger guard, which acts as a unlocking lever basically, and then the stock comes off just like that. We've got the spring down underneath barrel, and we've got the gas cylinder cap there. This is the gas cylinder lock, and then the gas cylinder comes off with the front sight. We've got the forend hand guard, and then we've got the famed operating rod that goes out as well. And then we've got the bolt. There's a pin here, and the other end of the up rod, follower arm, and a bullet guide. We've got a follower of the magazine there, and that is our field stripped M1. Okay, so let me tell you something about these parts. So we talked about the trigger group before. This rifle is only semi-automatic. In later years, mainly in the 50s, I guess, for a couple of years they would adopt a rifle called an M14, which was basically the same design as this. So same bolt design, same receiver, same operating rod and operating system, except that it had detachable magazines, and those were full auto as well. However, they were not very successful. Well, I guess depending on how you look at it. But they didn't last in service for a long time, unlike these things, which lasted basically from the 30s to the 50s. So quite a long lifespan, especially considering that in that time period, pretty much the most amount of change happened in small arms development in history, pretty much. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so talked about this stuff a bit before. So we've got the operating rod. Now I said famed because as you can see it has this bend in it, and that's because it has to operate the bolt on the side basically of the receiver, and that is a very well-known weak point of this rifle. Those op rods can break or bend if the ammo you're using is too powerful for this rifle. Other than that, actually, it's a pretty bulletproof rifle. There's nothing really major that can go wrong with it. So basically, that's pretty much. Oh yeah, I should say it's basically a gas piston operation type. We've got a gas port on the barrel that actuates the piston, which is connected to the operating rod, and that moves the bolt. And then there's a couple extra parts, pretty much. So the bolt is quite interesting. You don't see many of these types of bolts. It's sort of this flat thing. Obviously, it's a rotating bolt, two lug, as you can see. Quite an interesting design. A very small bolt, which actually makes the receiver quite small as well, for the length of the cartridge at least. And this is in 30-06, obviously, which was the main cartridge of the United States Army at that point. Obviously, the M16, which came later, would be then rechambered for 308, which was the NATO cartridge. Okay, so let's put this thing back together, shall we? So we've got some stuff here. Let's see. How do I put this thing together? We've got the bolt, goes in. Okay. Oh, as you can see, the bolt goes down a bit at the rear of the travel. I didn't really know that. That's pretty cool. So basically, it's not fully supported in, like, fully. How should I say? It's not fully locked in or something into the receiver rails. It does actually pivot down. That's pretty cool. And obviously, that's why you have this very distinct rear of the receiver shape with the sight on top. Now I should also mention these rifles had excellent sights, probably one of the best sights of World War II, certainly before. This peep sight and the front post were pretty much target sights of the time, so pretty cool stuff. Okay, so we've got the operating rod here, and then we've got some bits and pieces, the bullet guide, and then we've got this thing, the follower, that goes in the magazine, obviously. Follower arm, okay. And oh, is this actually... No, it's just like it's operated by the spring. Right, it doesn't have a It doesn't have a spring on the bottom like most rifles do. It's got a coil spring instead. That's pretty cool. Okay. I'm not sure if that coil spring also operates or also is used for the main cycling. So I don't know. It looks kind of small for that actually. I don't think there's another spring in there though. I think that's pretty much the only spring that's used in this rifle. That's pretty cool. I haven't actually taken one of these apart in real life, I should say. I've only seen them being taken apart, but not this far. Well, I guess this is field stripping, so maybe I haven't really seen anyone take this thing down. That's pretty cool. Okay, so we've got some front stuff here, which we don't put on apparently. Oh yeah, we have to put on the handguard there first of all, and then we've got the front assembly with the sight and everything, and then this is like a front cap and a plug as well. Okay, that's pretty cool. And we've got the lower, or the stock I should say, that goes on, and then we've got the trigger control or the trigger group that goes in as well, and that is our reassembled M1. So let's do operation first of all and see how this thing actually works. Okay, so there's your handle right on the up rod. As you can see, let's just go for, maybe we could just observe it as it cycles. Let's do that. Let's go slow-mo 50 and take a shot. Okay, so we can see it's hammer fired. You can actually see the hammer down there, and then the bolt goes kind of downwards, as you can see, which is pretty cool, and rotates into battery. You can see this interesting bolt shape because it's sort of canted when it is in battery, and it sort of closes up the opening there, which is pretty cool. Obviously top ejecting rifle. Alright, and the magazine is loaded by via end block clips. So it just stuff. I believe they had like two, or maybe they had one 8 round clip. I don't know. It's quite a large clip. And the magazine holds, I believe, 8 maybe, or 10. I don't know. No, I think it holds 8. It's quite a lot for the period, of course. Pretty cool. Okay, I think we could go for some. Let's see. I think we could go for some cutaways. Oh yeah, look at this. Oh, this is perfect. So here you can see everything. Oh, this is really nice. So you can see the hammer has a coil spring as well. It's very interesting. And you can see this is actually the operating spring, which is right inside. Oh shit! Now this is the coolest part, when it ejects the clip out of the top. So basically it's got this mechanism which works when the clip is fully emptied. It just ejects it out the top. You can also do it manually if you want to eject a clip with rounds in it still. Okay, so let's go for a reload. Not sure how I have to press. So just stuff basically a clip on the top, in the top, as you can see there, and it's got a follower in the middle, and I think that is actually 8 rounds in there. That's pretty cool, and everything stays in there, the clip including, and then goes into battery. And let's go into cutaway. Okay. I'm intrigued about this system. the follower and everything, how it is connected directly to the op rod basically. I think that's pretty cool. Not sure exactly how it works. Let's see. Can I fire? Oh yeah, that's happening. Okay, so that rotates, and then how does that work? I'm not sure. I do not know how this follower thing works. It's a bit beyond me actually. Still pretty cool stuff though. Wait, let's see. So the op rod comes back, and then I don't know. Does it even interact with it at all? I'm not sure. It is definitely using the same spring, which is kind of cool. And obviously, since this is compressed while the spring is compressed by the op rod while the next round is loaded, or just before it's being loaded, this follower has even more upwards force basically, and I guess that's just provides more reliable loading, which is pretty cool. Okay, so let's do what should we do? Cheek pad. Okay, let's get rid of the cutaways and the slow motion. What can we do with the cheek pad? Okay, so it's just like a leather cheek pad. Why is this slow still, for Christ's sake? That's cool. I think this is actually used for the scope. So they had some of these with scopes. They're quite rare actually, like sniper models. However, I think I'm not sure if they were quite accurate enough. I think they went for bolt guns instead. I could be wrong though. I'm not entirely sure. But it just mounts a scope on the side there, as you can see, and that's why you have this cheek pad to bring your face sort of to the left a bit, so that you can look past the sights and into the scope. Obviously these scopes were period, so not what we have today, but pretty good for the time, obviously. What else can we put on? Oh yes, of course, the bayonet. Now this is the combo you have to go to war with. That's perfect. Okay. What else can we do? Rear sight. Obviously it is adjustable for elevation, just for distance, I should say. Adjustable for distance. It's got this wheel on the side. Pretty cool. Alright, and safety is actually inside of the trigger guard, as you can see here, and it goes in and out. Okay, and let's do X-ray. Okay, so we've got this one, and then this is the follower and the magazine. Then we've got the bolt, op rod, and that's it. Okay. Pretty cool. I reckon we can probably take this thing apart and put it back together very quickly if I can do it. So it's got 73 parts, so that shouldn't be too difficult. Hopefully, it's got quite a bit of parts in the trigger group, but I reckon we can work with that. Okay, so this plug comes out, and then we've got this thing. And then we've got this thing, and then we've got handguard. Handguard has some stuff in it as well. Okay, and then let's see. We've got the op rod, spring, and then the op rod. Bolt is in there. Oh, it does. Oh no, oh, there was another spring there, but this is the only spring that it has. Okay, we've got a pin here, and then this follower mechanism, comes out. There's a little pin in there, and a thingy. Okay, and then what else do we have? We have this bottom part and this bullet guide, and we have a whole bunch of more stuff in the receiver. Actually, the barrel comes off, and it's got a bunch more stuff. Barrel block, and that's about it for the barrel. For the receiver, we've got a follower, which is actually 2 parts. Okay, and then we've got, let's see, there's a extractor. Oh no, that's a clip latch. Okay, right. We've got the sight. It comes off. Okay, and then the other part. Right. And the side blade, or the aperture basically. We've got the base. Okay, that's pretty much it for the receiver. What else have we got? We have this stock needs to be taken down as well, taken apart. So got some screws and a butt plate, which has a gate in it. That's a lot of parts. Okay. What else do we have? Sling swivels. There's one at the front as well. Okay. There's a front band here. Okay. And then we've got the front sight. Goes off. And the another sling swivel. Perfect. What else is there? There's 21 more parts. Oh yeah, there's obviously the trigger assembly. Okay, so we've got some pins here. Perfect. Take those out. Trigger. There's the spring for the hammer. There's also another part on the trigger, and then the hammer comes off. We have this part, which is the trigger guard. That's what keeps the trigger group in place, and the spring there. Okay, is there more stuff? Oh yeah, this spring comes off. And what else is there? Oh, there's the bolt, obviously, that we haven't taken a look at. So we've got an extractor here. Okay, and an ejector there. We've got the firing pin. Perfect. There's our completely disassembled M1. I think we can put it back together as well. Okay. Quite a lot of parts. Not all of them are very intuitive, but I think we can manage this somehow. So we've got this spring down here. And then we've got the trigger guard. We have the trigger. No, actually we've got this. No, we don't have that. We've got the safety, okay. And then the hammer. And then the spring for the hammer as well. Okay, so now the trigger should come in. Perfect. And then we've got some pins. There we go. And then this spring goes on here. Perfect. And then we've got the receiver, which is a right old mess. Okay, so the sight is very complex in this actually. Okay, so we've got the sight aperture, and then elevating knob, as it's called. Then the other half of the elevating knob. Okay, windage knob. Okay, and then we've got the bolt, and also this thing as well, and also this thing as well, which is a clip latch. Okay. Alright, so let's do the bolt then. So we've got a firing pin. We have an ejector. We should have an extractor in here as well. That's nice, right? And this goes on the barrel as well, barrel block. What else do we have in here? That's pretty much that. Let's put together this stuff. So we've got the handguard, and the barrel goes on, or goes screws onto the receiver. We have our bolt goes in, but we can do that later actually. I'm not sure when the handguard goes on. This part goes on first. Okay. And then we've got a whole bunch of stuff down here, like the operating rod and stuff like that. There's this part here, the follower goes in, okay, and then that part, and then we've got this part, okay, with the pin as well. Then we've got the spring goes in, okay, then we've got a whole bunch more stuff here. The front side, the bottom of the handguard, front nose cap thing goes on there, and then we've got the handguard, the front section, and then this part with the front sight, and this part, and then the lock screw, okay, and then pretty much oh, we've got some sling swivels here, and a butt plate that needs to be reassembled. It's got a trap door and stuff like that, so that can go in here. We got another screw up there. There we go, perfect. This can go underneath. There we go. And then trigger group goes in, and we have one completely reassembled M1. Alright, so this is probably enough for this video. I hope you've learned something more about the M1 Garand that you haven't known before. I certainly have, about the operation and how it looks on the inside. So basically this is a very cool gun. Historically speaking, I would definitely like to have one of these at some point, if not a real American one, which are quite rare in Europe. I would like to have at least like an Italian one, which were produced after the war, and they were actually adopted by the Italian military. So those are pretty cool as well. So I'm gonna have to get one at some point. It is not incredibly high on the priority list, but definitely in the future. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. If you liked it, you can press the like button and subscribe to my channel. You can also check out my other videos, and I will see you next time.